Hi, and welcome to Your Urban Connection. Now, let's get into this story about the murder of the United Healthcare uh, Systems uh, CEO, Brian Thompson. And the murder suspect has now been arrested after a 5-day search. And the number one question being asked is why did it take so long to catch this suspect? And I have an answer for you. And this is something that has not been discussed broadly. And many of you do not know this. But in the initial description that came from the New York police, here's what happened. This guy was described as a light skinned suspect. Now, by light skin, I want you to understand that light skin, ladies and gentlemen, only applies to a black male. And so somewhere along the line, somebody had misdescribed this guy and pointed to him as a light skinned person of interest. Now, so I have to ask you a couple of questions. Number one, have you ever heard a white male being described as light skinned? I have not. So basically, what this tells me is the suspect was initially described by the New York police as being light skinned. And you know what that connotates? That connotates a black male, okay? A light skinned black male. That's the only time or only uh, group of people that I have ever heard the term light skinned apply to. So somebody along the way either was wishing for or hoping for this suspect to be a black male that committed this brutal murder. And so perhaps it took them over 5 days or 5 days, whatever, because they were looking for the wrong guy. They were looking for the wrong race. And that's why maybe nobody ever contacted them because nobody had ever seen a black male matching this description. Okay? So that's the only rationale that I can come up with, all right? Is that is what happened. Now, this was the first picture that they had of this guy, all right? Other than the shooting, but this was the first descriptive picture they had of his face. Even though it's masked and covered up, he was identified as a light skinned. They didn't use the term black, but that's the only race that light skin has ever been attached to, as far as I know. So, anyhow, that's what they were looking for, and they didn't find him based on that photo. All right. So, later on, they did get another photo that was better than the one they first showed, and they got, uh, I believe it was this photo right here. They got this photo. And this is a photo of him smiling. But you can clearly see his face there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's clearly nobody that I know of that can mistake this guy for being a light-skinned, okay, black male. There's nobody could do that. And then so when they capture this guy, they find out that not only is he not a light-skinned black male, but rather they find that this guy is a well to do, rich guy from a very prominent family, okay, in Maryland. And this guy, now, when we get this photo, if this photo had been the first one posted, I'm sure that this guy would have been captured very early on, okay? But I guess they didn't have this photo until they actually could identify this guy by name. All right. And so then at that point in time, things begin to fall into place. But this guy is a very, very bright guy. The guy was a valedictorian in high school, which was, by the way, a private high school that cost $40,000 a year. Okay. So this tells you what kind of background this guy has and what kind of family he came from. A very prominent, well to do, rich family. All right. Yeah. You know, now that we've got the guy, and the guy was caught in Pennsylvania sitting at a McDonald's. And of course, he was eating. And in order to eat, he had to remove his mask that he had. All right. And therefore, he was recognized by one of the workers at McDonald's. Now, here's what I want to point out to you. So McDonald's calls the police, and I don't know exactly how the conversation went, but I assume they said, hey, we think we have the suspect in the murder of the United Healthcare CEO here in our restaurant eating French fries or tater tots or whatever it was he was eating. Now, here's the difference, and this is what let you know that they were not looking for a black male, okay? Because they didn't send 8 or 9 officers to that McDonald's initially. They sent 1 officer, maybe 2, and they go in, and they don't go in with guns drawn. It's not like they're looking for a black murder suspect. They knew better, so they treated him like someone with kid gloves. They went in, sit down, talked to him, began to question him. They didn't go in with guns drawn and say, hands up, okay? Don't move. They didn't do any of that, okay? So this tells you that they knew they were not looking for a black male suspect, all right? So they began to question the guy, began to ask him various questions, and at one point in time, they asked him if they could search him. And of course, the guy got a little nervous or whatever, but they began to search him. They first of all they searched. He had a backpack. He had a second backpack, whereas he dropped the first one in Central Park. But he had a backpack, and they searched his backpack and finds out the guy had a gun, fully loaded. He had ammunition. Okay, and the gun matched the description of the gun that they say was used in the murder. All right. And so they begin to feel like, hey, I think we have our man. All right. And once again, they then placed him under arrest, treated him like a human being, not like a thug. Okay. Not like someone that they were afraid of, not like someone that they felt that they needed to use 9 or 10 officers to get him in the police car. Okay. So this lets you know that they knew at this time their man was not a light skinned black male. Okay. As some had been led to believe. Now, the media jumped on this and they began to spread the word initially that this was a light skinned male. Okay. Because they got that from police in New York. So, anyhow, it turns out that this guy comes from a very rich family. He's been to a private high school, $40,000 a year. He's been to elite college in Pennsylvania. He's from Maryland, by the way. His hometown is in Maryland. But the guy spent the last, I don't know, a couple of years maybe in Hawaii. But it turns out that this guy had some problems, personal problems, with United Healthcare in terms of some medical issues that he had that they refused to pay for. And I believe they were associated with some back problems that he had. And they refused to pay for his health care. And he was 26 years old. Now, if you know anything about healthcare in the United States, 26 years old has a very special meaning. Because what that means is most healthcare insurances will not cover you under your parents' insurance once you get past the age of 26. Okay, so all of this, put all this together, he's having problems with his back. The insurance won't pay for it. He's about to get kicked off of his parents' insurance with this back problem he's having. He probably will not be insured by another insurance company. And if he does, it'll be at a very high rate. But yeah, this guy is flabbergasted and he's deflated because of the problems of healthcare and the way they treat patients who file claims. Now, they will take your premiums and take your insurance money all the time. But the minute you file a claim, they want to get rid of you. They don't like to pay out claims, okay? And especially for seniors. But in this particular case, while he's not a senior, he's on a senior's insurance policy. That's being his parents. Now, here's the problem that we have. This guy has seen this happen. He maybe he's even seen this happen in his own family. I don't know, but it maybe been somebody associated with him, but maybe friends. I don't know. But he's seen on a continual basis these insurance companies refusing to pay off policies that are very serious in nature when it comes to someone filing a claim. And he's gotten sick of it, and he's done some reading on insurance companies, and he's found out that they all basically operate on the same principle. They will gladly accept your payments, okay, but they're very, very slow to pay out claims. And so the guy decided, hey, I've had enough. I'm about to be kicked off of my parents' policy, and it's going to be difficult for me to get another policy on my own. And he decides to take matters into his own hands. And that's what he does, okay? And so what happens is the guy is arrested. He is now facing murder charges in the state of New York. He's under arrest for different reasons in Pennsylvania for possession of a gun without a permit, without authorization or whatever, and a couple of other minor charges. But his major case right now, and his major problem that he faces is in New York. And by the way, he's fighting extradition to New York. Okay. So what they thought might be an easy access to get him over to New York to face the murder charges, he's resisting. So it's going to take him somewhere in the neighborhood of probably, I would say, maybe 5 weeks, 6 weeks, who knows, maybe 2 months to get him through the normal process and procedures to get him to face those charges over in New York. But I just wanted to bring this on and let you all know that this is one of the reasons why maybe the answer to the questions why it took them so long is because they were looking for a light-skinned black, at least they thought that's what they were looking for. You see, folks, this is just goes to show you how the criminal justice system works in America. Okay, anytime you have something like this, a brutal murder, and in particular when you're talking about some rich white CEO, they want the suspect to be African American, okay, or in this case, a light-skinned black male. That's what they were hoping for. And this time it just didn't happen. This happened not to be the case. And they don't want to admit it. But I want you to understand, I want you to understand one thing. Here's the difference. And this guy's been under arrest for over 48 hours so far. And do you notice that they've never said we need to submit him to a drug test to see if there were any drugs in his system? Was he high on something? Well, that's the first thing they do when you're an African American. Or had he been a light-skinned black male, that's the first thing they would have done. Okay, find out. Hey, how many drugs were there on his system? Now, I want to say this, and I don't know how true this is, how accurate. The guy, when they found him at McDonald's, according to the police, he had, in addition to the gun and the ammunition and a silencer, he also had $8,000 worth of cash on him. Now, that's what they claim. He says the $8,000 was planted on him. Now, That's an allegation. That's what he says. I'm not saying that. I'm not making this up. That's what he says. So anyhow, that's the story on this, and this is why it's taking so long, in my opinion, for them to arrest this man, because they were hoping that it wouldn't be a white male. They were hoping that it would be a light-skinned black male. But when we get the mask off, we get everything. We see the full picture. This is the last guy that they would have been looking for. The last guy that they would have ever thought could admit such a hideous act on this rich multimillionaire CEO of the country's largest healthcare system. All right. But it just goes to show that's America for you. All right. Okay. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Okay.